It's Tuesday
Mayor
night.
Pan.
Wow.
I think we need a jingle.
Okay, we're
That's
live.
an idea.
So we're live. Pay attention, everyone. Live from Glen Cove City Hall. Good evening, I am Mayor Pan Panzabek, chairperson of the Glen Cove Industrial Development Agency and Local Economic Assistance Corporation. It is Tuesday, July 23rd, and we are holding tonight's IDA LEAC board meeting in the second floor conference room of City Hall. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Let's call the meeting to order at 6:33. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Lisa Travatella.
Here.
Tom Scott.
Here.
Dave Jimenez.
Here.
John Fielding.
Here.
Vice Chair Hartley.
Here.
And Chairperson Panzabek.
She's here. I make a motion to approve the minutes of the IDA LEAC meeting held June 25th, 2024, and I ask for a second. Motion seconded by Vince Hartley. Are there any questions? Will the secretary please poll the board?
Lisa Travatella.
Aye.
Tom Scott.
Aye.
Dave Jimenez.
Aye.
John Fielding.
Aye.
Vice Chair Hartley.
Aye.
And Chairperson Panzabek.
I vote aye. Motion carried. Will Ann Fengman please provide the members with her executive director's report?
Hi, everybody. Happy summer. First off, I just want to acknowledge Dave Jimenez as one of our core working group members for the comprehensive plan. The adoption of the comprehensive plan is on our city council agenda tonight. It was a 16-month undertaking. It was quite something. I want to make the board aware of that, and hopefully some of you can join us. Also wanted to mention that a bunch of us, Millen, myself, Tom Scott, our chairperson, recently met with RXR and also Morgan Stanley, who we hired as the underwriter for the Gardens Point bond matter.
Hiring, we don't have a retainer yet, but yes.
Yeah, and that's an important distinction. Janet Morley with CMA did advise me that she spoke with Morgan Stanley ahead of our meeting. They were very aware of the sort of public non-disclosure issues involved. They're professionals and they have to, they have to act professionally and within their, their guidelines. But we did meet with them. We're still awaiting a retainer agreement. I was assured that it was not due to an issue. It more has to do with Morgan Stanley's structure and the way that their particular division that our underwriters work with have to get approvals through sort of their higher channels at the company. That being said, we did have a discussion at that meeting. I'm not going to get into that discussion right now. If we have time at the end of the meeting, we might address some of those topics.
Mm-hmm.
Millen, I think you just received more of an update from one of our CDA board members than I had, but the matter of Janet Lane and the building that burned down on Dixon Street, I had been told that, they were sort of working on the permits for the demolition of the building and that they had hired an expediter to do so. We do continue to get sort of complaints, especially from the neighbors that live in close proximity to that building. Millen, do you have any kind of update?
It all comes down to this, Danielle Willis, just what we did. Right now, they're working on capping the utilities, right? So when the building came down, they have to cap all the utilities and locate where they are underground before they can do the demolition. They can't do the demolition until all that is done, and then they can start to do construction. So she thinks that there will be enough money from the insurance proceeds, although there will be an overrun, so they may have to work that into the budget long term. Bottom line is, it appears as if they are moving forward, but it's just, maddeningly slow.
It's been 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for a long time, they did not want to rebuild, so they're going along those lines. And then they decided to rebuild, and then they got rid of their old managing agent, so now they're doing an awful lot of it on the road.
Right, but for the adjacent property owners, I don't think they care as much about the nuances of what they were looking for. They just want the building down, So,
Understood.
Millen also provided myself and our comptroller, Mike Picarello, with draft documents relating to the closing for the financial assistance for 50 Glen Street. We provided Millen with our initial comments, and we will keep the board apprised as to that closing. Mail-in, I don't believe the Garvey's Point Brewery closing has occurred yet.
No, that
As
is
well?
on hold in part because the trustee had to sign some documents. The new trustee took effect on July 19th, so that may now move forward, although we're
The
still.
LC for the Garvey's Point.
That was Friday.
I'm sorry, Tommy, looked like you had a comment, question, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yes, that is not yet closed.
And I did circulate to the board the Emma filing that had to do with the trustee replacement, the new, I guess we're calling it the successor trustee. There was one more thing I wanted to mention to the board, but it's escaping me.
It hit on the debt service reserve fund?
We also, I think, circulated some materials related to the debt service reserve fund draw on the Garvey's Point bonds. Finally, I also wanted to mention the villas. The forbearance agreement, Freudian slip, was signed and executed, and the agency did receive its fee. However, my understanding is that not much else has progressed since then. Development agreement has not been executed with G2D that came to our meeting. I did receive word through a conversation that Camille had with one of our nonprofit agencies that there is work being done on site, which our building department director was looking into, because he was very specific that any work on site should only be related to the excavation, basically stabilizing the slopes out there due to the deep excavations that were previously done. There were some other issues brought up to us by that nonprofit, which we advise them, or we're going to advise them that they reach directly out to the property owner, Minogue specifically, to address Minogue's warning. So we will keep the board apprised, but Dylan, I don't think we got much else.
No, we've given them the rope to either hang themselves or whatever the opposite is, but, they have a couple more months, and they've not given us, as Ann mentioned, the very first thing, which is the development agreement with G2, great, the roadside.
Okay.
So we'll keep asking. They have a lot of things to do before the end of the year. There's time, but not a lot of time.
I'll mention that they'll also have a quarterly workforce report that's due to me by the end of the month. So that should be recording who is working on site and whether or not they're Glen Cove residents, what company they're working with. And while we were removed from that mechanics lien with DFAS, I believe that is still an ongoing matter between the parties. Okay.
Didn't we give them a date specific to come back to the board?
Yes, they have to have all of their ducks lined up by December, I think it's 8th. So the same date that the building permits expire. And they need to have a lot of things lined up: financing, long-term building permit, this development agreement, a revised budget, a decision whether or not they're asking the idea for more financial assistance, et cetera, et cetera. All the things that they have not yet done, we've given them a few more months to accomplish.
I mean, realistically, I would think that they would want to address to the board prior to the December deadline.
Certainly, especially if it's additional financial assistance, which depends what the final budget is. The final budget has gone up materially, they may want to come back. If they do want to come back, they know very well that it's a 2-month process, let's say, right? You submit the application, we do a preliminary approval, then we do all of the reports, we hold a public hearing, et cetera, before coming back to the board. And all of that has to be in place by December 8th, I think is the right.
It's all or nothing, correct?
It's your decision, but the answer is, I'm only giving them.
We agreed that it was going to be all or nothing.
I heard you, and so the answer is yes. I mean, from a legal perspective, it's whatever you say it is. And you can make that decision on December 8th, but they clearly have gotten the message that all this should have been done months ago, and that, it was not an easy sell, quite honestly, for all of you to give them until December 8th. And, I think there's some reluctance from some of you. So this, yes, I think that they will, no one understand that they have to have all these stuff lined up in a scenario.
Okay, so that's it, right? Yep. Will Margot Zoldesky please provide the members with her finance report?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to present the finance report for the IDA and the Glen Cove Local Economic Assistance Corporation for the period of January through June. First, I'd like to go over the IDA. The revenue for the IDA for the period of January through June is a total of $152,000 compared to the annual budget of $313,000. Out of the revenue, we have escrow fee revenue, $75,000 compared to the budget of $110,000. Other revenue of $59,000 from admin fees and consent fees compared to the annual budget of $199,000. And we have interest income from January to June of $18,000. So in total, again, the revenue is $152,000 compared to the annual budget of $313,000. In terms of expenses for the IDA, January through June, total expenses are $173,000 compared to the annual budget of $308,000. Included in the expenses are salaries and benefits. We have $85,000 incurred compared to the annual budget of $171,000. That's roughly 50% of the budget. We have professional expenditures incurred for $86,000 compared to the annual budget of $131,000. Please keep in mind professional expenditures include accounting fees, legal fees, and escrow professional fees. Please note escrow expenses included are for $71,000. Other expenses incurred for $2,000 compared to the annual budget of roughly $4,900. Please note other expenses include office, copier, and admin expenses. Thus far, there is a year-to-date operating loss of $21,000. Please keep in mind much of the revenue comes from project closings and has the ability to fluctuate from year to year. So again, the revenue for the IDA, January through June, is $152,000. Total expenses of $173,000. Thus far, there is an operating loss of $21,000. Please let me know if you have any questions on the IDA. If not, I'd like to go to GLEAC, the Glen Cove Local Economic Assistance Corporation. The revenue is $4,000. That consists of admin fee revenue of $2,000, interest income of $2,000. Expenses, total expenses of $6,000. Included are the expenses are admin fee expense of $2,000 paid to the IDA and professional fees for $4,000 compared to the annual budget of roughly $4,500. Professional fees include legal fees of $500 and an audit fee of $3,500. Thus far, there is a year-to-date loss for GLEAC of $2,000. Please let me know if you have any questions, either on the IDA or the Glen Cove Local Economic Assistance Corporation.
Okay, this evening's new business is a draft application for IDA financial assistance from 115 Glen Street Associates LLC for Ann and/or Miller. Please provide the members with further information on this matter.
We have representatives from the applicant.
Good timing.
They heard your name.
I think I'll just, Millen, I'll start and then we'll take it. I did receive a letter dated May 29, 2024, that documented the land use approvals for the project and the request of the applicant. That letter is included in your packets. Also included in your packets is a application for discussion purposes only. I know that I reviewed this fairly recently and provided some comments to Millen. I know that Millen has comments as well. So this is not by any means a final application, but it's something for discussion purposes tonight. I do know that the application does have an organization chart in the back and goes through some of the financial impacts of the project and some of the jobs and all those other information factors that we look at. But again, it's just for discussion purpose tonight. I believe we're looking at 29 units, 10% affordable, 10% workforce. I think you have a unit mix in here, 8 studios, 16 one-bedrooms, 5 two-bedroom apartments. This is the parcel located directly across from the senior center, which is currently used as a parking lot. I believe it also includes some of the adjoining property as well. Does it include any of the?
10 acre, pretty much the building and the parking lot.
The building, right, the building and the parking lot across from the senior center. It's going to provide 42 on-site parking spots. 13 have been promised to lease. So is there a lease agreement in place?
Yes.
Okay, so the city has signed a lease agreement with you?
Oh, these,
Not yet.
Not yet, no. It's been negotiated and finalized. Right.
Okay, so there's a lease agreement for 13 of those spots with the senior center that has been negotiated but has not been executed, let me say. Is that fair?
and,
Okay.
you know, that, my understanding, Dan, is that that would be perpetual, right? This would be a never-ending lease, right? So it's not just for the term of any IDA financial system.
I believe the land use approvals involved, I just want to get through a little bit of the overview, and then I'm sure we have a lot of questions. Or do you want to go ahead? You can go ahead.
Is
if you want.
this, by the way, Mr. Silverman? We didn't even introduce,
I'm sorry?
is this Mr. Silverman? Who
Yeah,
is
what are these folks?
No, yeah, no, I said.
Well, Dancy,
Yeah,
you're John.
I guess let me just
Yeah, I
finish
know, I
this,
know.
and then we can go through who's in the room and questions. I believe that this is falling into our UTEP, correct? For this type of project. Our UTEP was redone last year. So what are we asking for? We're asking for a 15-year pilot, mortgage recording tax and sales tax exemptions, is that correct?
Yes.
And this has received land use approvals through the zoning board and does not require any additional land use approvals at this time?
That's right.
Okay. Just wanted to get through that overview, and now I would love to have everybody in the room representing the project introduce themselves, and then I'm sure we will have, comments and questions for Bill and
Why don't we come around?
Want to see?
No, let's see that, show everybody. I know it's a dangerous thing to be on, you can start looking at the hand, listening, but, let me start with introductions.
Sure.
Let me start, first of all, with thank you for allowing us to speak here today.
You should be true.
Do you have one?
So, let me just start by saying, my name is Dan Deegan, with the law firm Orchard Deegan Flanagan. I'm the attorney for the proposed developers and builders of the site. We have with the Alec Weinstein and Cliff Bettner, who are the two principals. They've been at this for about 7 years, trying to work something.
Just guess where it is.
Okay, yeah, so this is right across, this is the, across from like the.
Right there,
Right
right there, retail shop.
Retail shop. This building, it's been empty and blighted for a long time at this point. It originally was an auto repair shop. That business closed, the owner died. These guys have been in contract to buy that property for many, many years at this point. And they've been working through the planning process.
10 years, right?
10 years,
Close
7
to
years,
10 years.
Close to 10.
close to 10
Close
years. And trying to right-size the project, trying to work through with the planning, building department, the planning board, the zoning board to get the right size and perfect project that will work on this site. As Ann indicated, it's a multifamily housing, it's 29 units. It's, a huge improvement over what's there to begin with. As I said, it's a empty piece of property with a lighted building on it. The plan would be to knock down that building and to build this structure that you see in front of us. We have all the approvals from the planning board and from the zoning board. The only thing that we really need to make this a reality is the help from this board. there's a lot of benefits to this project, which have come about, and have been discussed with the various boards of the city who have already approved this, starting with there's some contamination on site that would be removed as part of this project. So there's also retaining walls and other issues that are dilapidated that need to be replaced. This project will basically bring up to speed and make it, a state-of-the-art modern site from that perspective. It's going to provide activation for the downtown, and it's going to have some residents in the downtown. The way it's proposed now is tailored to try and meet this IDA board's uniform tax exemption policy, which calls for 10% affordable and 10% workforce units. Another very important factor, which was alluded to earlier, is that there's been a parking situation. This is private property. We don't own the property yet. We're in contract with the estate of the guy who died to buy the property for a long time. But it's private property, and at one point, the senior center had a lease to use some of the parking lot to help with their facility. That lease expired, and ultimately, these guys, through the seller, have allowed the senior center to continue to use it, but the problem was there was no permanent right to have the seniors park in that. As part of this project, and part of the things we'll work through with the boards, working through with the help of the mayor facilitating some discussions, is that there will be permanent parking spaces assigned for the shared with the parking with the senior center. So that's something that's not there now, as no one mentioned, it will be in perpetuity. So basically, it's a private piece of property that would be encumbered in perpetuity to allow for this parking for the senior center. As you can see from the picture, it's a tremendous beautification of the area. This is
Is that actually what it's gonna look like?
planned,
Pretty
right?
much, so it looks different from originally.
So,
It's better.
So I think the board is generally, familiar with, planning concept of it's important to have people in the downtown, to have residents in the downtown to help activate the stores, keep activity on the streets. If you walk down this area at night now, you can see this would be a big upgrade to have people living there that have a vested interest in being there. I think what we're asking for, in terms of a pilot is consistent with what the IDA's policy is. It would result in a lot more taxes than are being generated today. Even if it's in the form of a pilot, it's a lot more revenue that will be generated and what historically has been generated at the site, significantly more beneficial. So it's, one of the challenges in doing this site, and I know this board has heard it before with other projects, but these projects do not pencil out on their own. The rents that are being paid, this is rents that are being, the waterfront is, to a large extent, a luxury development. And I don't want to steal these guys' time, but these guys have really invested a lot of time and effort in knowing the city, running the city. And, this is built for Glen Cove. That's the input we've gotten over the years from the different boards, everything else. This is not built. It's built to a, not like the waterfront, which is a luxury product, which is bringing people in from other places. This really is built to be available for Glen Cove people. And, I think it's a housing option that's very much needed. The rents are going to be less than what the waterfront is. They're going to be probably less than what's across the street at the Fairfield Airfield. So this is a different product, but it's just as beautiful and just as, high class and a great place to live. There's going to be certain amenities, which I'll let you guys talk about. There's a gym facility and other things that are, laundry facilities that are make this a very attractive place to live for empty nesters, for young people, for people that have income. It's always a misnomer of affordable housing. Affordable housing and workforce housing is for people who are teachers, police officers, have a job, you make $80,000 a year. This is where you can live and be able to afford some of these units.
Who would administer those units?
I belong on housing partnership. Yes.
Have you been in communication with them?
Yes. So
We work with them on a couple of the projects.
You have worked with them previously?
yeah.
We're both formally on their board.
So I kind of skipped over that. It's just also talk about the credentials of these guys and the credibility. These guys have done projects together around Long Island. Well, seems very successful housing projects, very well maintained, and they have a great reputation in the industry. you know, that this will be a big improvement to that area and a big boost, I believe, to the downtown. I don't know if, we'll talk about anything else. Obviously, we're here for questions.
Yeah, Dan, there's, as you see in the agenda, there's no resolution on for tonight. This really is just sort of to introduce the project to you and to see if there's additional questions that we should pass on to the developers before they submit any applications. We just wanted to sort of, you know, get your initial temperature. If you instruct us to move forward, we go through the normal process, get the application, start the due diligence, et cetera. But we wanted to preview with you first and, you know, see what your reaction is and what additional questions or issues you have.
Well, and I would point out, as I said earlier, this project has gone through many different iterations. It started a lot bigger, based on feedback from the city and the boards. It's gotten smaller, and it's gotten more compact to fit onto this site.
It looks a lot better. Okay.
Thank you. Well, it's been a real back and forth, and I think, as I said, the zoning board and planning board are totally approved this. The only thing that would prevent us from building this now is to have, we're going to create a brand new tax base here. All we're asking the board to do is help phase in those new taxes that we're going to create instead of having them all on day one. Given the interest rate environment, which everybody knows about, construction costs have gone through the roof. These are very difficult projects to pencil out and to make them work financially. And what we're looking for really, the idea is just to help us phase in the brand new taxes or the new revenue that's going to be created by this much higher than what's there today. And this is not the type of project that's going to generate school-aged children. So it's really not going to be a burden. It should just be a real positive in terms of the fiscal impacts on the city, fiscal impacts, and hopefully good for the downtown merchants. Keep them vibrant.
Wonder if some of the seniors could afford to live
When are the average rents going to be?
And it solves the senior parking issue, which was really.
What are the average rents, the rents for the facility?
Will probably be, around $4 a square foot, so probably 2,000 change for a studio, probably high 2s, low 3s for a 1-bedroom. And we have a very small smattering of 2 bedrooms, they'll probably be about $4,000. That's the market rate. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was the question.
Yeah, that's the market. The other rents are set by.
I'm not sure seniors can live there.
So,
Well, there are affordable units.
depends who they are.
Yeah.
I mean, affordable units are for people who are working.
6
months. It's an area median income implies a income coming in. So sometimes.
So of the 29, there are 6 affordable units. Well, 3 affordable and 3 workforce.
And there will, there'll be a fund maintained for the maintenance of this place?
When you say a fund, it would be privately owned.
Some sort of, we know that in the future, there'll be money there to keep this looking the way it looks today.
Yeah, well, there'll be reserves within the budget to maintain the building, and it'll be brand new, so the maintenance of it over the first few years will be fairly low. We'll have a super on site to make repairs or handle the trash or deal with the residents. So we won't have that. And as Dan alluded to, for a small building, it's very highly amenitized. We're going to have washer dryers in every apartment, solid surface countertops, hardwood floors. We're going to have a gym, rooftop deck. We're going to have a lounge, and of course, we have parking. And as Dan alluded to or said, we hopefully help solve the senior parking problem forever. As long as the senior center is there, the parking is available to them. And we'll manage that with them.
How many parking spaces does the senior center use now?
Well, originally they had a lease for 16, so I don't know how many, I've never really counted it, but they're gonna have 13 here. Because we needed to make sure we had at least one for each tenant. So that's 29, and we have 42 per code. So we're making 13 available in the event that there's more that we can make available to them. We told Christine Rice that we would certainly help in that regard.
What's the timing of the purchase of the property?
Really, it's subject to, if we have a pilot, it goes a long way to secure our financing. And so our lenders are pretty ready to go. I think we could be shoveling the ground by October.
have they submitted any term sheets on this project from lenders?
No, we don't have that.
No, we don't have, no.
No, but is that something you're prepared to do once the application is potentially submitted? Is that gonna take a long time, I guess is my question.
When you get term sheets from lenders too.
It depends. I mean, the market is thin now for lenders for anything. You know, obviously, rates are higher than when we started this project, certainly fairly high now. So it's a small group of lenders who would do this, but we would engage them right away. And if it was a condition to our approval, certainly we would deliver. We intend to. How that works out, timing wise, I'm not sure.
You answered the question.
Okay.
I think the plan is, with the ideas help, we can get this started in October. It's about an 18-month construction project, generate construction jobs, which is good. And we'll get this property producing revenue for the effective tax jurisdictions.
It's really the gateway, you know, to the city. From that end of town, there's really kind of nothing there. And, you know, there's a blighted piece of property. Again, the walls are dilapidated. You know, no place, protect no place above. Make sure we put the retaining walls in, concrete retaining walls to support that.
Vagrant, regular, there's people there, sometimes it's supposed to be the trespassers, I guess, on the property.
There were homeless
Yes.
people who were occupying
Yeah, that,
some of the cars. But I think they've been
We don't own the property. no.
removed.
okay.
If we did move forward, we would take any additional comments you have, ask them to submit the application. When they submit the application, we would do the preliminary resolution. That then would start the due diligence process. And some of the due diligence reports that we would do are a report as to what the taxes would be, so we can calculate what the pilot would be. We would also ask National Development Council to look at the once we figure out what the pilot is, then National Development Council can then look at their projections to advise us that there's no, quote, unjust enrichment, right? So that we know that the pilot that they're getting is necessary to make the project work. And we go through the public hearing, look at secra, you know, all of those kind of things that we normally would do. But you know, that's only after we have the application and the initial deposit, et cetera.
When is your plan to put shovel in ground?
I would say October, at least. We're open, I mean,
Maybe 7 years in the making, to try to get to this point.
our architect is ready to go with the final construction drawings. Our lenders are waiting to hear about the pilot because it's critical to their underwriting of the project. And I think beyond that,
Because we've seen in the past, it takes so long, they just don't float away.
we could do two.
And we've been fighting for years.
We have the financial strength to be able to do this. We could close on the land without a lender. And perhaps we might do that, depending on the timing of the pilot, but this is a good project with Cliff and myself as strong developers. We think there's lenders out for this. Some of the other projects that maybe haven't started are much larger and more challenging than this. This is surface. We're not digging any massive holes. We just need to remove the building there, which we've done the studies on that. That should be relatively quick. We have to get permits clearly. But yeah, we think we can get the ground pretty quickly, certainly by the end of the year.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
Yes, I do. Just a couple of things before we get to the application on the letter that you addressed to Ms. Fangman. On the second paragraph, the third paragraph, I think, Dan, did you say that the Glen Cove residents are going to have the first bite of the apple here?
I don't know if I said that. We have to be careful with that because there's fair housing laws that prevent you from targeting different areas. As a practical matter, you can market in different areas, but you can't say you give a preference to any particular, any geographic area. So
That we have litigation.
I did say that this is built with input from Glen Covers for Glen Covers, and it's trying to fill a niche in the rental market in the city that is not really being fully addressed. And, so I think there's certainly gonna try and, I want to speak to you guys, but from our discussions, you guys are gonna try and market it locally and try and give people the opportunity to be part of this.
I think it's a natural project for people who are familiar with the city. And who maybe work in the city, maybe work in this building, you know, who want that, who could downsize, and also young people. Because, you know, the mix that we looked for was really to make it, you know, more attractive to younger people looking for a place to start. And hopefully the rents are surely cheaper than a lot of other areas, like rents you might see in Mineola or Westbury. So I think that it sets up nicely for that. If you want to live, you know, near the water, which is a great amenity.
The purpose of the question was with respect to AMIs. You're using AMIs of Russell County.
The AMI is a defined term, it's just Nassau and Suffolk County together. It's a federal standard, it's a catchment area and economic zone, so it's, that's how it's described, and it's promulgated every year by, it's HUD promulgates it, changes every year, it goes up every year.
It's been going up in recent years because we use the same standards for our Section 8 program and our CDBG guidelines.
So we're just complying with what the IDA's policy is that you guys adopted last year to try and fit into that, which is the 80.
Well, I will say,
Where does,
if someone has a voucher, and we've seen this with Garvey's and even in Village Square, they can potentially use their housing choice voucher toward meeting that AMI. The voucher can help subsidize the AMI that's required for a particular unit.
I guess I'll ask you, the AMI for the city of Glen Cove versus Nassau and Suffolk counties is much lower.
That's not calculated. We can't use a city of Glen Cove AMI. I have to do a calculation on that, but we have to use Nassau Suffolk. So it's kind of a moot point. If I had to guess, it's probably a little bit lower. I think when we calculated in the past, it is lower, but I don't want to put a number out there. Yeah. Awful.
Thank you. On the second page, Dan, who wrote this?
Oh, John Gordon is sitting behind this. I didn't, it's my partner, John Gordon, works on this.
Yes.
We're both of them, the contents.
On the second page, the second paragraph.
Is anything wrong, he wrote it.
Well, we're going to put it to the test right now.
That's a
It
joke.
says the project will provide the city of Glen Cove with transit-oriented development. What does that mean?
Well, it's walkable to the train station, is the concept.
So there's,
And it's a bus line also.
That's what it's one concentration.
Yeah, so transit, basically public transit, train and bus.
so the project is not providing any transportation.
No,
Okay. So that's wrong, John.
well, it's Warrington. It's in a place in the vicinity of a train and bus line where people could avail themselves of public transportation. That's kind of the definition of it.
Okay.
I also want to note that throughout the application in this letter, there's reference to the City of Glen Cove's master plan, which was adopted in 2009. We have a comprehensive plan up for adoption tonight, our 2024 comprehensive plan, which has been going on the last 16 months, a tremendous effort. So I will be looking for, if you do resubmit the application or we accept a final application, I would like to see how this project aligns with our hope to be adopted tonight new comprehensive plan, because once that is adopted, that is our new Bible.
Do you know offhand, if it affects this parcel? Respect everything.
It's a general plan. It is not parcel specific. I would encourage you to review the plan. It's on our, GlenCoveComprehensivePlan.com website and take a look at it. It is up for adoption tonight. Of course, that, is pending the city council's approval. I will say we worked with BFJ Planning. We worked with a tremendous amount of public stakeholder committee engagement and with the city council directly. It's a great plan. It's much more thorough and in-depth than what was done previously. We had more grant funding and resources as well. Okay.
This is fully entitled at this point, but still, the idea for us to make sure it's consistent with the concepts.
And in addition, there's one job that you are open to working with Glen Cove businesses to support the construction of this.
Absolutely.
And do you experience working with them in the past on your other projects?
I don't think we have any, I mean, I think Cliff, they'll make a few.
But nothing,
Not
Glen
like
Cove specific.
You know, most of our work in the last 10 years has been in Suffolk County.
Something okay.
But no, it'll be an open shop, they'll open to anybody who wants to bid and is qualified to do the work. Yeah, love to have it.
When Lisa Travatello was in her prior position as PR officer for the city of Glen Cove, we would partner with her on things like job fairs, to really engage the local community and have, those sort of businesses come in and meet with, the owner. Is that something that you're open to
Well, you mentioned to me without saying names, you've already spoken to a Glen Cove contractor who has given a good, what you thought was in a good range that they seem like a very likely candidate to be involved in this. So they already have been working with Glen Cove.
Yeah, we want to support our community as best we can with all different projects and businesses.
So we act as our own construction manager, but we hire subcontractors to do all the work. So the plumber, electrician, carpenter, whatever. We do, yeah, absolutely.
Did you say all your other developments are in Suffolk County?
Well, most recently,
Nothing in Nassau?
I would say not within the last 10 years in Nassau County.
I've done a couple of things in Nassau County, but the bigger projects have been Suffolk
Yeah,
County.
the multifamily projects are typically in Suffolk County because they're larger, 55 and over type developments that we do. We just got approval for a project in Riverhead and finishing up a few projects in Suffolk County.
I hate to say it, but between Alec and I, we have almost 80 years between us, experience building on Long Island, almost 80 years between us. So just FYI. Oh, and we're both past presidents of the local business association, chairman of the board. We were both very active in that association as well.
What IDAs have you worked with before?
Nassau County and Riverhead.
So you did receive IDA assistance on this 55+ community, I guess you.
No, because that was for sale.
Okay,
Those have been condominiums. The one in Riverhead, we just recently had that approval.
Yep.
4 or 5 months ago. That's for an apartment building in downtown Riverhead. And then we worked with the Nassau County IDA for a small project in the village of West End.
so have most of your past projects been condos versus rentals?
Yes,
Okay, this is a rental project.
it is a rental project. Yes.
I noticed on page 13, you're not making this building, you won't have a LEED status?
We were not planning on that.
So,
I'm sorry?
We were not planning on using it.
So, LEED is a technical, high standard. As a practical matter, you see with modern buildings, is they are much more energy efficient than old buildings used to be. All the appliances are, by regulars, are energy efficient. So it's really the largest, and I've learned this from other clients out from you guys, that really the LEED standard is a lot of these buildings are close to that standard anyway. It's just really more of a, I don't know, legal process, but a process an architect and actually get that stamp of LEEDs. Doesn't necessarily, just because it doesn't have it, doesn't mean these are not highly energy efficient and, environmentally friendly buildings. Just because of modern construction methods are all that way now.
And we meet, the most up-to-date codes, coming out of New York State, which were adopted by the city. So,
If you don't mind, could you just quickly review for us your capital costs on page 14?
No, I think he's asking,
I'm particularly interested in number 8, the financial fees of $727,000. What is that?
is that bank interest and, interest?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I'm asking you guys that.
Okay. Sometimes the
Right,
form,
interest reserve prepaid.
must with the form doesn't necessarily line up with our,
No, it doesn't.
with our budget, because
I mean, that's one of the things you see is that we try to squeeze the budget into the forms that, I have this experience with IDA applications across the island. That one size is not fit all for every project. So sometimes different categories get squeezed into different line items.
Well, I guess a way around that is potentially footnoting it or maybe putting some detail.
I feel like we can ask them to submit as an addendum or whatever, their form of budget, which may be, more coherent, if you will, than putting, trying to adhere to, I don't say simplistic, but, 12 line items. I expect their budget is many more specific line items.
So this is John Gordon, will have to work on this.
The other question you could ask is, the equity investment of 2.4, what's made up of that?
that would be cash
Cash coming
from us.
The financial fees are construction interest and any bank fees, commitment fees, and things of that nature. So anything that's ultimately going to the bank. So it's construction loan interest during the construction period, which is capitalized as.
So that's why you're saying 2.4, you could buy the building without, before this application was 1.3?
1.3 is the land price.
So yes, you buy the land that you need to before.
If we need to.
As you can imagine, the seller has not been happy with the pace of this.
What's the timing on that again? When you guys think you're going to close on
October.
Fourth quarter.
Well, to start
Yeah,
construction,
yeah.
you could close and build land sooner than that.
Yeah. Fourth quarter.
Really, the whole thing is kind of hinged on this.
John Blanchard attaches the addendum, whatever the details are.
I just want to note, the chairperson and I
I
have to go down to
have
city council
I
in
have a major meeting,
minutes,
so
so
and just,
I think that's a good idea. We'll footnote and provide the level of detail that'll help explain these numbers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In the interest of time, I'll refrain.
This is not your last time to ask questions.
If you prefer, if you want to send me any comments, again, there's no action being taken tonight, so if you have additional comments, et cetera, I can pass them on, so that when you do get the application, it answers whatever your additional comments are.
and I just want to note, this is a fairly complex org chart, so I think that at a later time, would like to understand just and the board's edification. You may want to mention, Millen, our new policy of doing background checks over a certain level of interest, so we'll also need to understand if this progresses.
Yeah, we can do the math, we got who should be doing the background.
Yeah, which I can't
Right.
make
And so
heads or tails of tonight, but
I think that's the sentiment that, with some of the changes we talked about, and we submit the application and we'll do it on the policy. But, give me a couple of days, maybe until next week, just as like Tom may have additional comments, and comments, I comments. So we're gonna finalize it, but I think that's the answer.
I gave him the closing statement.
okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
I think we did something, I think we did something.
So unfortunately for tonight, I don't think we're gonna get to all of the unfinished business. I think we're gonna have to follow up with our board members outside of this meeting on some of what's been progressing. As I mentioned, we met with the underwriter and there's gonna be additional updates. So with that being said, I think we may have to close out the meeting. We don't have any resolutions on for tonight. I guess I'll mention, since we have roughly 5 minutes, Millen, we received a proposal from SBS, who did the original tax projections for the waterfront. What does that proposal entail, and how would you propose it gets paid, and what is the scope of work?
In our discussions with RXR, they have indicated that one of the challenges in building Block A, and Block A being the cornerstone of all the money down the waterfront, the bonds, et cetera, is that the otherwise applicable taxes are lower than what's in the master tax agreement, meaning that folks who would buy into the Beacon or really talking about Block A, would have to pay more taxes instead of lower. Typically, pilots give you a discount, but the way this is set up, there's a minimum, and the minimum is higher than the otherwise applicable taxes. So one of the things that Ann and I thought to do is sort of test whether, or confirm that that is in fact the case. So I reached out to SBS, Standard Valuation Services, one of the reputable companies that does this, and they did the original forecasts back in 2015. So this would be an update on their work. Their proposal is for $9,500 to go through the same exercise, if you will, that we did back then. My suggestion, Ann, would be that we ask RXR to pay for it. The idea doesn't have a lot of funds. This would be, I think, to at least continue discussions with RXR as to why Block A is or is not being developed, how it gets developed, and when it's developed, et cetera. So that's sort of my suggestion.
So at this time, we're not really asking the board for a resolution on this. You want to potentially send it over to RXR to see if what their view is on paying for it.
Exactly.
I mean, my caveat to all that is, I think in our meeting, we heard that RXR was kind of undergoing this 30-day sort of due diligence period with some of what they were looking at in the waterfront. Should we wait that time frame? I guess I'm putting that out to the board before sending this.
Yeah, I say no.
Yeah, I think my suggestion, let's put it on the table, because in our meeting, Joe made certain statements about the otherwise applicable taxes at Block A that I think are very important for how and when Block A gets developed. And while I'm certain Joe knows what he's talking about, as a basis for these discussions, I think the board needs an independent third party to opine as to what the taxes would be.
So what's he saying, like, he's trying to come up with the value, saying that is what the property tax should be?
Exactly. Or what it would be if there was no IDA. And part of the problem is that it's almost sui generis.
What would be a comparable property?
Well, that's the
Part of the problem.
right. The Beacon,
There are no comps.
Our assessor has not been able to find.
Right. So
Well,
to me, it
Comparables.
just seems like, well, I think it's too high.
well, some of the answer is that with the Beacon now having been built and mostly sold, we do have a track record on both what the sales prices are, although, you know, that's sort of catch-22. Those prices may be affected by the pilot on that one, but we also know what the rentals have been, because RXR is renting some of the unsold units. So there is now some data on a luxury condo in Glen Cove. There's not a lot of comparables because it's at most one building, and for the rentals, even just a handful of units in there. But that's why, you know, I'm not in a position to confirm or deny the allegation from RXR that the taxes in the master tax agreement are too high. So.
And Millen, if RXR, this is what I potentially see some next steps, and I want to hear the board's views. We send this to RXR and they agree to pay for it. I would see this going on, I suppose, our next meeting agenda for approval resolution. And then once SBS produces this report, I would think that we also want our city assessor to take a look at it as well. Is that fair?
Certainly fair, because, and I discussed that with SBS, and that's one more test, if you will, that because the city assessor is one who would actually assess this.
And would he require a fee? Because if he's going to require a fee, we might want to get a proposal from him and also send that to RXR. But we should probably find that out.
Yep.
Yeah, if and when this proposal gets done, or these projections get done, is SBS aware that the taxes are being grieved?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure that they are. I think Ann and I have heard. Are they? Have you actually filed tax certs already?
That I don't know.
Okay.
They're gonna be grieved.
Okay, I expect that they will. And,
Yes.
yeah, in theory, we could wait just through that process. In theory, eventually you get a judge to tell the assessor what the otherwise the taxes are, but oftentimes that takes years. And I think we want a better idea sooner rather than later. But the answer is, I will certainly mention it, if they don't know already, to SBS, that that's out there.
I think our assessor is aware of that to some degree as well. It's been contacted, knows of that. I'm sorry, thank you so much. I have to go downstairs.
One thing, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, is I think that we should have either you or the mayor write a letter to our friends, okay, and say that everything that's on the table has to be concluded by December 8th, I think is the date.
Well, that's
Put that
for
in.
the village.
We're not going to blockade the waterfront.
I'm sorry,
The Garvey's Point waterfront.
no, this.
Oh, you're on another, okay, he's on another matter.
No, I'm going back to it.
They know.
So Millen, is it clear in the forbearance agreement that, to Vince's point, the full list that we're looking for has to be issued by December 8th?
I believe that it is. I'm happy to look at it and speak to them.
And speak to them, but also
In
put
writing?
it in writing,
Okay.
okay? Cover for
And
change.
maybe like in an effort to meet the December 8th deadline, you give us this, and this by this date, so we have time to look at it and turn it over.
Exactly.
Blah, blah, blah.
Right, maybe we
Yeah.
do need to allude to the fact
Yeah.
that the board is gonna need some time.
Yeah.
If they're looking to make some kind of decision by December 8th, that there's going to be, I would think a minimum of 2 months needed to really delve through the materials.
Yeah, certainly if there's additional financial assistance, that's, it's
Sorry,
all
Vince, I
process.
see that you're trying to get everything in, because I thank you, thank you.
Okay, if you're leaving,
Wait a minute,
Vince
one
is now
last thing.
the chair.
Okay, can we, take a vote on closing the meeting, okay?
I can hang out for that, that's
I
fine.
mean, yes.
Well, Ann doesn't
You
have
and
a
the
vote.
Yeah, I don't-
chairman just stepped out.
I-
So
It's okay, I trust Camille and Millen.
Okay.
you can ask for a resolution to close the meeting, take a quick vote, and then you go. If there's nothing else that anyone has that they want to put on the record. Okay, you want to ask for that resolution?
Yep.
Okay. Vince has asked for a.
Yeah, if there's no further business.
Right, so Vince proposes to close the meeting, does he have a second?
Second.
Done. Okay, Vince asks, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Vince counts the votes, there's 5 in favor, no opposed, I think the meeting is done.
Mr. Travatello,
Aye.
Yes.
Dave Jimenez,
Aye.
John Fielding,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hawkins.
So we cover all parliamentary procedures.
And the
Yeah,
meeting
exactly.
is adjourned at
And the
7:33.
ADO was watching, so we,
Yeah.
might as well.
Okay.
Are we
I'm
no longer
going
live?
to- I'm going to,
By the way, there's a state agency, I won't see which one, that, when they go into executive session, they kick everyone off of the Zoom.